check it once. I guess now we are live. So just let's wait for some time and then start.
Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am.
Oh,
We are
yes.
quite excited.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. Are you at IIT as well?
Yes, I am in electrical engineering BTech,
Which year are you in?
second year.
Second year. So, how's the? You're all studying from home, right? It's all
Yes,
online. How's that
yes,
going? How's that
it's
going?
going all right. A little hectic, but it's all right.
Yeah,
But we do miss the campus.
of course. I know. Is the campus open at all, or everything is shut?
It's open. It's for students with for resources. It's available.
Okay. So, do you go in at all?
No, it has a lot of uh, procedure, and it's mostly for students who have uh, resource constraint.
Hmm. So, do you live close to campus? Are you in Bombay, or you're somewhere else?
I am in Ahmedabad, but it's like a 2 hour journey by flight, 1 hour something.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's been hard because I would have loved to be here in person for this event, but
Same
unfortunately,
here, ma'am.
another time. Another time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so do you know how many people have dialed in?
Uh, no, I cannot see through this interface.
Okay.
But I guess we can begin if you're ready.
Oh yes, I'm ready. I mean, I don't mind waiting for a little bit too if you think people are coming in.
Oh, I got the.
Yes, ma'am. Lots of people had joined in, and we can just start the event also as people are joining in. Still, there are people coming. We can join. We can start around 6:35. It's like 33 in 2 minutes. We'll be
Yeah,
starting in two.
sounds good. Sounds good.
Yes.
I'm fine starting in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I hear it's early morning in America.
Oh yeah, 5 in the morning. Yeah. My kids are all sleeping, so came outside to our living room so that they don't get disturbed.
I can understand.
Yeah.
That was quite. We really appreciate this.
Yeah, no, I would do anything for IIT, including waking up at 4 in the morning. Um, yeah, of course, in IIT, I never woke up early. But there was one, we used to pull like all nighters sometimes for tests. And I do remember staying up all night and then going to sleep at 4 in the morning. So that definitely did happen.
Yes, the culture still continues with that one.
Yes. So still keeping on long nights before exams.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the fun of
Uh,
being
it,
in college.
yes, it is. It's 6:35. I guess we can start now.
Okay, sounds great. Let's get started.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Greetings from Student Alumni Relations Cell. Ms. Shalini Govil Pai is currently the GM and VP of TV at Google. Her leadership has led to winning strategies for distribution of streaming media, including Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max, across TV and mobile devices form factors. She previously served as senior director at YouTube, where her work enabled creators, storytellers, and citizen journalists to expand their reach and increase monetization by more than 10 times. Prior to Google, Shalini was technical director at Pixar Animation, where she led efforts for the first entirely CG animated blockbuster, Toy Story and A Bug's Life. Shalini is well-known thought leader and speaker on digital production and distribution trends, most recently having keynote at IBC and at Google's annual hardware event, and featured on Next TV's executive watch list. She is the author of two internationally published computer graphic books: first, Principles of Computer Graphics, and second, Learning Computer Graphics. Shalini has a BS and MS in computer science. She was also honored the distinguished alumni from her alma mater, IIT Bombay. Ma'am, it is a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This pandemic has disrupted our daily activities, and we would have loved to meet you in person. But we can still do this online event and maintain the essence of IIT Bombay, which is through its students. Ma'am, how do you feel addressing the present batch of IIT Bombay?
Well, I feel extremely honored and proud. So thank you for inviting me. I hope that I can add some value to your day and to your thought process by my talk here. I wish I was there in person. That's what we were just discussing before we got started. I just remember entering the gates of IIT. I don't even know how it is nowadays. I came 5 years ago. So it's been 5 years since I've actually entered the campus. But I do remember walking to H10, which was the ladies' hostel.
Yes.
I remember walking from H10 to the computer science department, which is where I graduated with computer science degree. I remember going to H3, which is where my husband was. He's an electrical engineer from IIT Bombay. And it was just magical days and magical memories. And so, like I said, I wish I was there in person to re-experience a lot of that. But really happy, that technology has come to a point where at least I can address all of you via this conference call. I wish I could see all of you, by the way. And I hope some of you have questions for me live. And I'm also happy to, take any of your calls afterwards. I can send my email address. So please feel free to send me email. I always enjoy talking to young, upcoming professionals such as yourselves. So feel free to connect.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for this generous offer. And we are quite grateful that we can have this conversation through this technology. And like you said, when someone says IIT Bombay, the first things that we remember are the friends and our memories with them and the campus. And believe me, the campus has been really lovely over the past 5 years. But would you wish to share one experience from your college life that you cherish till date?
IIT has given me so much that I don't know any one particular incident. There are just so many incidents, but I will say, I went to
You,
IIT. Sorry, were you going to ask me something?
yeah, I was saying feel free to share 3 or 4 or as many.
Okay, yes, feel free to share all of them, and then we can go on through the whole night.
Yes.
All my friends, we still stay in touch. In fact, just last weekend, we had a reunion, which Anu Narasimhan, who's also an IIT graduate and now serves on the board, she organized for us. And so all of us, there were about 200 of us that had gotten together. And then the H10 ladies, there were 7 of us that, we spent time right after that for about an hour over video conference. And then we're meeting again this weekend to celebrate Christmas. So that's kind of the camaraderie that we've had over the years, and we've stayed in touch. And it's been really amazing to have that set of friends. I will say for me, it was especially magical because I met my husband at IIT. He did, as I mentioned, he was in H3. and he did electrical engineering. And my sister went to IIT too. She was 2 years younger than I was, and she met her husband at IIT as well. And so, for all four of us are from IIT, and we live very close by. And so my kids and her kids, for the longest time, they thought everyone who came from India went to IIT because we were all IIT ourselves, and all our friends are from IIT practically. And so for the longest time, they thought, oh, everyone who comes from India is from IIT. And then my daughter went to college. She went to Rice University, which is in Houston. She did bioengineering there. And that's when she realized, oh, actually, everyone from India, his parents are not from IIT. And that's when, her expanse kind of enlarged, that there were other institutes that people came from. But IIT has just been the center of our lives forever, and it continues to be so. So that's kind of the magic of IIT. It just stays with you for the rest of your life, and it even impacts your kids once you have them.
Yes, ma'am, agree. That sounds like quite a lovely family.
Mm-hmm.
You have delivered such blockbuster movies such as Toy Story and A Bug's Life. So, how was that journey for you? Blending technology with entertainment. How did you become interested in this field towards entertainment and movies? Were there any challenges for you?
You know how I got involved in this? Like my guiding mantra and guiding spirit through all my life has always been, I always wanted to just do what I was passionate about. Like I never wanted to do something just for the sake of money or for the sake of title or for the sake of, just being showcased in the press, if you will. It was always about, what did I really love to do, and what would I feel really proud to be part of. And so when I was growing up, I grew up in Bombay, like probably most of you. And Bollywood was like a big thing even then. And, I always wanted to be part of it in some way. I always wanted to be part of entertainment. And when I was 11 or 12, I got an offer to do a little dance as part of this movie. And so that was kind of like my big thrill. I was going to be part of Bollywood, and I was going to be this child actress. And so I did it, and the movie came to the theaters, and my parents said, first day theaters are always full, so let's not go the first day, let's go the second day. But you won't believe it, but the second day, the movie was out of the theaters because it was a really big flop. And many years later, when I was at YouTube, I asked my team in India, hey, can you find this movie? And they couldn't find it because no one had even bothered to digitize it. So it's sitting in someone's vault somewhere on a tape, but it hadn't been digitized. So that's kind of when I realized, oh, wow, maybe I can't really become a Bollywood actress, but maybe there's some other way to join entertainment. And at that time, Pixar Animation was a really tiny little company. They had just started making little short films using computer graphics and computer technology. And they just won an Academy Award for a short film called Tintoy. If any of you have not seen it, definitely go to YouTube, where you can see all of Pixar's shorts right from its beginning. It's pretty astounding now if you think about it. Tintoy and Wally B, Andre and Wally B. Those were the two early films. And if you look at it, it's just really blocks of spheres and cones, just very primitive shapes that they had stuck together to make characters, and then applied transformations across it to just create this feel of a story, which was really very compelling. If you see those stories, they're very compelling, even with these very, very simple objects that they had put together. And that's really what got me hooked. I was like, wow, you could put such simple primitives together and render it and create such compelling stories. What could this future look like once technology got even better? And we know technology always gets better over time. So that's really
Yes.
what got me hooked. And so when I joined IIT, I knew I wanted to do computer science. I knew I wanted to do computer graphics. And so that's what I did. I did computer science in IIT. And then I went to Penn State, where I graduated with a specialization in computer graphics. And then pretty soon joined Pixar Animation, where we had not yet made that first movie, Toy Story, which was entirely computer graphic animated. And so that's what we went out to do. So that was kind of my passion, and that's what I wanted to do. And I just followed my dreams, and it happened for me.
Ma'am, one question. Like you mentioned that they added emotions to these characters and they turned it into movies. So, did you get attached to the characters? Did you? Uh, what was your favorite character?
Yeah, yeah. If you've seen, I'm sure all of you have seen these movies when you were kids.
Yes, yes.
And the beauty, Steve Jobs used to always say, I really love this quote that he always made, which was, "It's not about the technology; it's about the story." And so, we really spent a lot of time thinking through how do we actually create the essence of a character in these computer graphics objects. How do we make them look and feel like people that people can relate to, that kids can relate to and be inspired by? And so that was always a goal. And so it was really technology aiding that spirit of storytelling. My favorite character was always Buzz Lightyear, because he was always this, he just didn't believe in the status quo, right? He didn't believe that he couldn't fly. He believed he could fly. And that's what gave him his wings. And I think that's a big lesson for all of us, which is we've got to believe in ourselves. We've got to believe that we can do more than what people tell us sometimes, or what we think we can do. We can do a lot more than that, and that's what Buzz Lightyear believed. And that's the character that I've always identified with, is just think big, and even if you don't land up in the stars, you'll land up in the moon. So always be that dreamer.
That's very motivating. And as growing up, we have all watched animated movies, and it's something that remains with us, and it really inspires us as a kid. It shapes us in a way, and we are quite grateful that you have been a part of that.
Definitely. Couple of anecdotes on that. One is, when we did Toy Story, no one believed that a computer graphics animated complete end-to-end movie would be of interest to an audience beyond kids, right? Like at that time, animations were for kids, and that's it. But through the technology, through how amazing we were able to make the stories, I think now, like, the audience is a lot broader. Like, even adults wait to watch movies that come out from Pixar, from Disney. They're just amazing breed of content. The second anecdote is, I actually had my first daughter, Sonal, her name is Sonal, while we were making A Bug's Life, which was our second movie. And, there were about 10 of us who had kids while we were making the production. So in the titles at the end, so if you watch the titles at the end, the credits, you'll see a little section that says production babies. And so we had the names of all the babies that were born during production. And so you'll see Sonal's name as part of it. That's her big claim to fame, that she has got credits in A Bug's Life.
That's quite nice. I will check it out
Yeah.
after this. Ma'am, you are the founder and lead product manager for Google TV. So, how did you come across this innovation and what inspired you?
Yeah. So, like I said, like, media has always been my passion. I've always wanted to be part of showbiz, for many reasons, by the way. There's entertainment. How do you entertain people? There's also education. How can you educate people through this medium, which, if you think about a Netflix, they have, what, 180 million subscribers. 180 million. That's a lot of people who watch Netflix. Disney Plus just came out saying by the end of 2024, they're expecting 250 million people. So entertainment is just a way to inspire and to educate and to help people just understand. News. I think of news as
Mm,
part of media. And so that's kind of has always been my inspiration and my goal for how does technology help that? How does technology help people be inspired, be educated, through a medium that they can resonate with? And that's media for me. And so when I was at Pixar, it was always about production of content. When I moved to YouTube and to TV, it was really about distribution of content, because you can create great content, but if no one's watching it, what's the point? And so, so as the internet came about, when I joined Pixar, it was very much about how does technology help production. Um, Fast forward to 2000s, it was becoming very clear that theaters were not the only way to distribute content. TV, when I talk about TV, broadcast TV was not the only way to distribute content. There was this new medium called the internet. I know for all of you, you've lived all your life with the internet, but we didn't.
Yes.
It was definitely a new medium that was rising, and so then it became, well, how do creators of all types actually get out their stories and their messages to people through this medium of the internet, which has this capacity for democratizing storytelling. It's no longer just a Pixar that can tell a story. Everyone, you and I, can tell a story and we can put it out there. But like I said, how do we make sure everyone can see it and it's not just you and I that see it? So that was kind of the mission and the mantra. That's actually what led me to YouTube. So I joined YouTube with that as a first stop, to really help storytellers and citizen journalists tell their stories through the medium of online. And then I joined TV because one of the realizations even at YouTube was that I think in India the case is a little bit different. I think in India you're still watching YouTube a lot through the phones.
Yes.
In a lot of the Western worlds, with smart TVs and a lot of broadband coming to the home, people are starting to watch quote unquote, internet TV, streaming media, as we call it, through their TVs, because it's just a larger form factor. It's just more amazing to sit down with your families, at social time, or with your friends, right? It's just much. I
Yes.
don't think I still go to the mess and watch TV. That's what we used to do. But definitely, like, just that social environment of watching content on TV is just something that people really want and desire. And so that's what got me to thinking about, well, how can we distribute content through TVs and really provide a distribution mechanism for the Netflixes and Disneys, of course, of the world. But any developer can build an app and get their content on TV. So we have on Google TV, we have a lot of the big players, of course, because without that, no one will buy that TV, but also the smaller players, and Haystack TV. In India, of course, we have Hotstar, and we have Star. We have all the regular networks, but we're also looking at how do we grow app developers for TV, just as we've done for phones. So that's kind of what our mission is for Google TV.
Ma'am, where do you see this future of Google TV headed towards? And if we consider the scenario of the pandemic for the near future, then since everyone is being at home and people are avoiding theaters, so how do you think this will affect the consumers and Google, this product?
Yes, I think more and more we're going to start seeing that content is coming directly to the TV, to streaming apps,
Yes.
and theaters are going to be there, but I think that is getting less and less of that's the only
Trend.
way to watch content. I don't know if this is happening in India, but here in the US, Wonder Woman, for example, is coming out day and date, both on theater as well as on TV, on streaming media, which is a first, right? Like, this has not happened
Yes.
before, that it's day and date at the same time. And HBO Max has announced all of their content next year. It's going to come on streaming media first. Disney Plus is also moving in that direction. I think Hotstar is also moving in that direction. So we'll see. This is a very interesting time for content. So we're going to have to wait and see. But my suspicion is more and more, it's going to come to your living room day and date, which is fabulous. And people's living rooms are becoming like home theaters more and more. Like, TVs are, and they're not that expensive. Like, really amazing 4K TVs. We have a big partnership with Xiaomi, and Xiaomi TVs in India. I was just when I was there last time, a couple of years ago, it was like 10,000 rupees. That TV, it's a 4K TV with amazing sound. And it's smart, so it's got the internet, it's got all the apps that you would want, and it was 10,000 rupees, and that's kind of how democratized this is becoming. And so why would you not just put it directly day and date on these smart TVs so that everyone can enjoy it, and then you can figure out the price point. So the business models definitely are changing, but I think that's the way the world is headed.
Yes, and I believe that this way, even the content distribution would be easy for the producers.
Yes, and like I said, the power of the internet is that it can democratize so many things. I'm sure all of you must have developed an app for the phone at some point in your life, or you will at some point in your life. And so, Google TV is actually based on Android, which is the OS, which is our world class OS that powers the phones like Samsung, which I think is the number one selling, and Xiaomi, which is number one and number two selling phones in India. We've used the same OS on Google TV, so it's all powered through Android. And like I said, anyone can develop an app for Google TV or for Android. And more, our goal is it's not just about the Netflixes and the Hotstars of the world, but we want everyone to be able to build an app and to tell their stories on our platforms, and that's really our goal. And that's how I see it moving forward as well.
That sounds quite the optimistic and democratized future. I hope to see it soon.
Yes.
Ma'am, as the director at YouTube Google, what sort of challenges did you face? Did you face some sort of technical problems, and how did you go about solving them?
There, YouTube, if you go to YouTube, I'm sure all of you go to YouTube, by the way. So,
Yes.
if you go to the website, it seems really simple, right? Like you go there, you look at some content, you watch a video, you click on to the next video. It seems really simple. Like, what could be such high tech complexity behind it? But there's a lot of technology that goes on into YouTube. The first one just being, we're serving 1 billion plus users. I think the last that I checked, our public number for YouTube was 2 billion users, which is practically everyone in the world who has internet, right? That's the extent of the viewership on YouTube. It's all happening through bits and bytes that are streaming across our data pipes. And so, how does that scale? That's a really big challenge that we faced at YouTube. And it continues to be a challenge because the bits and bytes are just getting bigger and bigger, right? That the content,
Yes.
if you saw originally what YouTube had, very, very low res, 1 minute clips, just people pulling pranks on each other practically. That was really what it was. But now it's more and more movies. It's really high class content, Cobra Kai, that kind of content, which is very popular with our younger demographics. And how does that really scale to 2 billion users? How do we scale that so that and manage all those pipes so that it doesn't break as we're sending all of that over? So that's a really big challenge that we continue to face, and all of Google works on it. Our data centers, as you know, is a pride and joy for us. We have had many innovations in how do we scale data centers across the globe. How do we cache very smartly at the edges so that we're not going all across the globe to get those bits and bytes to users? So that's all part of our algorithms and our learnings that we are constantly aware of and working on. That's number one. The number two challenge is, again, really thinking about who is this user on our site? What are their interests, and how do we serve as much of interesting content for them? Like, what's interesting for you, Amal, might be different for what's interesting to me. And so our algorithms are constantly trying to figure out, how do I make sure that, because we have so much content. So our challenge, by the way, at YouTube is not just that we have 2 billion users. We also have so much content that you could spend, I think someone had done an analysis, you could spend a lifetime watching all of the content on YouTube and you would still not be done. And so with that amount of content, how do we make sure we are able to serve to our users what they are potentially interested in, and not overwhelm them by so much choice that the mantra that there's on choice, which is if there's too much choice, you're going to walk away because you're so confused, you don't know what to end up with. And so, how do we simplify that option equation for users and make sure that we can help them navigate through this landscape of content and get them to what they're interested in watching, while also exposing them to more and more? So, one of the classic dilemmas of machine learning nowadays is people get into a bubble. So you say you're interested, let's say, in gaming, and you get into the gaming bubble, and then our algorithms or any algorithm starts serving you more and more gaming, and you just think that the whole world is all about gaming because that's all you're watching. And so how do we make sure also at the same time that people are not landing up into bubbles, but they're actually expanding their horizons at the same time? So that's another challenge that we're constantly working on.
Ma'am, like you mentioned about using machine learning algorithms for this. So AI is making huge strides in all fields possible. So, in your opinion, what sort of fields have immense potential for AI, and how do you see it affecting Google TV or media related?
Yes, Google is a big pioneer in AI. I think you all must have read Sundar's blog on quantum computing, which is we think it's going to just break a lot of the time dimensionality that classic computing has put in front of us. It is 10 years out, but it's an exciting frontier that we're looking at.
Yes.
In terms of like more immediate prospects for AI, like I talked about the recommendation side of AI, which is a big focus for us on YouTube as well as on Google TV. How do we serve users with content that they're interested in while also not trapping them into a bubble, but just making sure that they're exposed to more diverse, more global content? That's a big focus from my side personally. Where I think AI what I'm really excited about for AI is really the applications in medicine. So we just announced 2 weeks ago through DeepMind, which is an Alphabet company. Alphabet is the main the holding company for Google. DeepMind just announced AlphaFold 2. AlphaFold 1 had already been doing AI work to detect protein folding. AlphaFold 2 now is able to detect protein folding, which is why it's called AlphaFold, at 95% accuracy, which is really astounding
Yes.
to get to that accuracy within a certain time dimension. And, a lot of the drug research companies are going to be using that for drug discovery. And they believe that it can increase, drugs, for example, take 5 to 10 years to develop. Just all the experiments and the understanding of the proteins has just taken a long time. And this can really accelerate it. And we've already seen like some of the advantages for COVID, for example, like we've already got a vaccine in 1 year.
Yes.
And I think AI has tremendous potential in accelerating that. I think AI has tremendous potential in accelerating, detection of malignant tumors and cancers. And we're doing a lot of work in helping a lot of our research partners in that frontier. And so that's what I'm excited about for AI, is really on the space of medicine. And as you mentioned, of course, like finance, I think a lot of you are probably interested in finance. Financial aspects are being also considered through AI. And I think that's a huge frontier as well.
I'm quite excited about the medicinal as well.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you have authored 2 books in computer graphics. Would you will share your journey from being an engineer to an author? What motivates you, and how do you know what you want to do in life?
um, you know, I think, like I mentioned, my guiding mantra is always do what you're passionate about. That's always been my spirit. And when I wrote the book, the reason I did it was because I remember, I was so into computer graphics, and I got married to Raj Pai. Like I said, he's from IIT as well. So, he understands technology, but he didn't understand computer graphics. And he would keep asking me, what does this mean? What do you mean by rendering? What do you mean by modeling? What are you doing? How does this animation thing work? And I was thinking, wow, like Raj, he's an electrical engineer, and it's still hard for him to understand these basic concepts that I just took for granted, right, in computer graphics. And so that's
Yes.
really what got us to write our first book, because we thought, like, if Raj is trying to ask these questions and understand how computer graphics works, there are probably a lot of people in this world who are asking that question. And I had tried getting some books for him to help him read it, and he was like, "This kind of it's not at the level that I need it at, right? It's going either way beyond me, or it's too simple. Like it's more for animators, like just to understand how the basics, but it doesn't appeal to me as a technologist." And so that was really the what got us both. So our first book we wrote together. So that's what got us to write our first book called Learning Computer Graphics, and it was accepted at many universities as a textbook for technologists like yourselves to understand, starting from the very basics, but then expanding it all the way to, tweening and all the different technologies that we apply for rendering, all the physics that we use in it. So it kind of went a lot deeper into all of that science and technology to make computer graphics happen. So that's what made us write our first book. And then the second one was a follow-up because the publisher, Springer Verlag, asked me, said, "Hey, this textbook was really great, well appreciated. Can we do a new one?" And so I wrote the second book because of that.
And that's quite a lovely and inspiring journey.
Yeah, well, again, like all driven by just life experiences, driven by my interests, my husband's interests, family interests, just what's around me. That's really what's driven things for me.
Where where do you see this future of computer graphics headed towards?
Computer graphics, and by the way, I've been out of that field now for a couple of years because I'm more in the distribution field.
Yes.
But if I just step back and think, when we did Toy Story, it was the first computer graphics movie. No one believed we could do that. And now every animated movie is computer graphics. I don't think
Yes.
we do. I've not seen a hand-drawn animation in the last 20 years. There used to be this animation called stop motion animation, which is also pretty unique and pretty amazing if you've seen some of the older movies. I'm trying to think which one it was. There was a Halloween movie which was stop motion. In stop motion, you kind of like pause, you create the character, you
Uh,
change.
we have the Shaun the Sheep when we were kids. That was stop motion show.
What was it called? Shaw the Sheep?
Shaun the Sheep.
Shaun the Sheep. I haven't seen that one. But there are a bunch of them which are very, very popular. I'm sure kind of like Shaun the Sheep. So I haven't seen stop motion in a long time too. So it's almost all computer graphics. In fact, I'm pretty sure all of it is computer graphics done now. Even if you look at live action movies, they are, all of them have some element of computer graphics, or, the Marvel movies are half computer graphics, right, and half live
Yes.
action. There are dreams of people, like if you think of the pandemic, right, where productions are really at a standstill. People are still producing, but they're being very careful about it. Could you use computer graphics to just do, a lot of the production? That's kind of where the vision is. I think that's where it'll go. That's in the media space. I it's computer graphics is used a lot in medicines too. The doctors use it a lot in terms of their learning about the bodies. Virtual reality is all about computer graphics. It's all of these virtual worlds that people are looking into are all computer animated, computer graphics rendered. And more, a lot of us are living now in virtual reality environments. And so,
Yes.
the sky is the limit. Like, I would actually, by the way, I would hate to be in a world which is all virtual. We all,
Yes.
I'm sure all of you miss being in
Yes.
IIT in person.
Yes,
But
we do.
but there are dreams like that. Could you just put on a headset and be transported into IIT right now, and just see your friends all around you through avatars right now and just experience that whole thing almost like it's real. So those are all the visions that people are working on. I think that they'll become reality soon enough. And at the same time, nothing beats real life. So we don't want it to be completely virtual forever, for sure. So those are some of the interesting areas in computer graphics. Gaming, of course, like I didn't mention gaming, but gaming is always is always computer graphics heavy, and that continues to be. And with VR, like I said, that VR is gaming is the biggest application for VR, and that's that I think a lot of you have probably played a lot of the VR games. They're still not quite there where you don't feel like you're going to puke after playing one of those games, but they're getting there. I think more and more that's how it'll be. Computer graphics
I
will
guess,
be different. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I guess it can also be used in simulations.
Yeah, definitely. Simulations are a good one. My husband works at NASA, and they've been using computer graphics. That's a good one you reminded me of. They've been using computer graphics to simulate a lot of their rocket ships as well, and simulating how it would be if you land on the moon, if you land on Mars. That's our retirement plan, by the way. I always tell Raj, our retirement plan is to have a home on Mars. So we'll see if that happens.
We hope it happens soon.
Yes.
Now, to the students present here today, what sort of career advice would you wish to give them?
My biggest career advice is, again, like I started from the beginning, this is the mantra that I've lived by. It's always been follow your dream, follow your passions, find a way. Technology has its arm. You're all technologists, right? You're all studying technology. And technology has a way of finding itself in every field that you can think of, whether it's finance, whether it's medicine, whether it's gaming, whether it's entertainment, whether it's education. There is no space that doesn't have technology power it. And so, as a technologist, I would think, what are the spaces that really interest me? And I have a personal mission to change the status quo on. Follow that dream and use technology and use your skills to really change the status quo in those domains, because that's really the power of what you as students and upcoming technologists can really do for this world. So that's what I would encourage you to do.
Thank you very much, ma'am. As a closing remark, what advice would you give to people who are watching this? Any sort of life lessons?
Follow your dreams, follow your passions. Never believe, I was interviewed on Forbes a couple of years ago, and they had asked me, what advice would you give to your former self? And my,
Yes.
my answer was, the biggest advice I would give is, a lot of times we think, wow, we're so young, we don't know what it is. Like, like some of my young people who joined my team, they're like, Shalini, like, you know it all. So you tell us, how should we be thinking about using our technology? Or how should we be thinking about this? And I'm like, no, I don't want you asking me, because I'm now, I've become the status quo, right? I am the status quo at this point. You're the young person with fresh ideas, fresh ways to think about things. I want to hear from you. What do you look at and say, wow, this is so stupid. Why are we doing it this way? We should change it. We should do it this way instead. Because for me, I've been doing it that way for many years now. And so it feels like, yeah, that's the way it's always done. So why should I change it? But you can really bring that fresh energy and that fresh spirit and change status quo. That's why revolutions always happen from students, is because you don't believe in the status quo. And that was my advice to my former self, is believe in yourself. Never go to someone and say, oh my God, you're a VP, so you must know more than I do. I shouldn't ask you questions. No, you always believe that you have the answers, because you have the power to change the world. And so go and do that. Believe in yourself and change the world, because that's what the world is expecting from you.
Thank you, ma'am. I will always remember this.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure everyone present here will remember this.
Yes.
We have a few questions from the audience. So the first question is that would you share the extra things that you used to do in college besides academics? They are from their freshman year and they feel a little confused about how to handle all of this. And a bit of context for you is that they are in the online semester, so they haven't really been inside the institute or any sort of such experience.
Yeah. It's got to be hard. I can just, it's got to be hard starting college online. Like, by the way, my son, and I'll just show you, can you see this?
Little bit higher, yes.
Okay, so that's my family. And my son, who's in the photo, he just started college too, just like a lot of you freshmen. He just started at USC, which is University of Southern California in LA. And he started it online, just like all of you. So I've seen it firsthand how hard it is. He's every day he's like, "Mom, I really need to be in college. I cannot be living at home." And but it is what it is. So you kind of make the best of it. I would say the things that I did when I was in IIT. I didn't study a whole lot, and I don't know if I should share that with you. But I didn't study a whole lot. In fact, I remember this one class called engineering drawing, which I don't think you do anymore. You do it
We
still?
do.
You
Yes,
do?
but we have it on the software,
Okay,
AutoCAD.
thank goodness for that. But I remember that engineering drawing because we still had that T square or whatever it's called, and we had to like
Yes.
draw. I could not do it for nuts. Can you believe that a computer graphics person couldn't do engineering drawing? I just couldn't do it. And I got a D in that class. Can I just share this with you
Yes.
in confidence? Do not share it further than this. But I got a D in that class. Um, I just barely managed to pass that class. So I think that college is, of course, about academics, and of course you're learning. You're here to learn, but a large part of college is about, like I said, making friends, lifelong friends. And I just shared at the beginning how lifelong they are. Like after 25, 30 years, I'm still friends with all of them. And we help each other. We're mentors for each other. We network with each other. We're helping each other's kids now. My son, for example, will probably seek out a lot of my friends as maybe their next boss. And so that's the power of college. And so I'd encourage you, and I know it's harder doing it online, but I'd really encourage you to spend time, you know, making those really close friendships. And it doesn't have to be everybody in IIT, whoever it is that resonates with you and is your type, if you will. I did volunteer a lot for Mood Indigo. I think you still have Mood Eye, right? That's still there.
Yes.
Yes, I did attend it when I came last time. So I used to volunteer for Mood Eye. I think I made a lot of friends through Mood Eye. And we actually played a lot of pranks at Mood Eye too, which I won't tell you right now, because then your respect for me will go really, really low.
No.
But I did volunteer for that. Did you have an online Mood Eye this time, by the way? Is that how you did it?
Yes. This year is the 50th Moodai.
Oh, so it's all happening online. Is there like a rock
Yes.
concert? Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you can invite me for it. I'd love to join in.
Yes, we will.
Um, but volunteer for Mood Eye. I used to volunteer for the magazine. I don't remember what it was called, but I did volunteer for that. I used to sing, and so we had this. I forgot its name, but we had this singing night. I don't know if you still have it. You probably don't because you're looking at me with a blank face. But we used to sing in the LP
We
lounge. Like we had a night that we did.
we have the symphony club for the dramatics club, arts club.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't that. It was something else. We used to have this every year. Students who would sing and were probably part of some club would present on the LT lawns. And so I used to do that. So I did a bunch of different things. I did, talking of dramatics, I did once participate in the annual production. We used to call it ANPROD. Do you still have ANPROD?
I
No.
don't think so. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Yeah, at that time we did this thing called ANPROD. And then there was also the IIT PAF. You still have PAF. I'm sure you still have PAF.
Yes.
Yes. So I used to do PAF as well. PAF, by the way, is a routine, is a tradition that has not left any of our IIT blood. And so for every year for Diwali, all the IITs do an annual PAF type get together where each IIT does like a little show. It's very PAF style with a lot of like Bollywood masala thrown in there. And each IIT competes with each other. And I will tell you, IIT Bombay always comes first. So we're still holding that flag. But those are some of the things that I did. I know it's a lot harder online, but whatever it is that you can volunteer for, I would do that. If you can participate in activities that IIT has to offer, I'd participate in them. Not because it's going to get you some skill set that you're going to make your career out of it, but more because it'll get you some new friendships that you would probably not have made otherwise. And two, like every experience is a unique experience. Like, there's a lot of neuroscience research done that there are new brain cells and brain connections that happen when you do something different. And so I would take it with that spirit, is you're going to make a lot of friendship connections, and your brains are going to make a lot of new neural connections by joining some of these things. So that's what I would encourage you to do. And it's okay, confidentially, it's okay to get a D in one or two classes. You'll survive. If I have any indication of it, you'll survive that.
Thank you. That's quite comforting for a lot of students, including myself.
I'm sure you're a student.
A follow-up question on that is, as you mentioned, to follow your passion. So, how do we know what our passions are? That we don't have much experience
Yeah.
and that we are not much aware of the type of things that exist in the world. So, how do we try new things and uh, follow our passion or find our passion?
Yeah. When I say passion, I really mean what interests you. Like what do you find interesting? Do you find entertainment? And I found entertainment interesting. And how do you find your interests? It's just what every day you're living through it, right? Like what is interesting you when you're sitting at home on a video conference, right? Like are you thinking, wow, I wish this was an experience that I felt like everyone was right next to me and I could just reach out and talk to them. Go build that experience, right? That's one way to think about your interests. Trying out, like I mentioned, trying out volunteering for all of these things in IIT. You have practical training. I think that continues as a tradition. Use your practical training to get yourself experiences that maybe you wouldn't have tried otherwise. For example, maybe you always thought you were interested in design, but you're actually maybe try out a practical training in finance and see how you do there, and maybe you really love it. Those are the ways I think to try things out. You're at the stage where you can try out a lot of different things, and so don't be shy about it. And the internet makes a lot of it very much easier.
One question is that because of this lockdown and most people are missing out on the personal experience, in-person experiences, and uh, what would you say about that? Like, if everything is going online and there's all the online courses and everything, but at some point you do feel that if you connect with the instructor or the professor or something, or if you could get some sort of practical experience about that.
Yeah. Yes, for sure, there is no taking away from the real life experience. I really understand how you're feeling. Like, imagine you got into college. Those are, the best time to form friendships, and you're doing it online. Like, I totally understand how that must be. Like I said, I see it with my own son and how disappointed he is, but it is what it is. And so we're making the best of it. I think there's a lot of awareness amongst educators that I talk to In fact, Gaurav Sukhatme, who's a friend of mine from IIT, he's the dean of USC. He also went to IIT, and his father was the dean of IIT when we were there. So he has a tradition of being a dean. I was talking to him as my son got into USC, and he was saying, even amongst educators, there's a lot of realization that even though online seems like a great, efficient way to do things, that is not the way education can work. Education is about being with your peers, sitting, learning from them, doing homework together. I remember all those all-nighters we pulled, studying for exams. We didn't do them by ourselves, right? We sat with our friends and we mugged together. And, that togetherness is part of education. And so I don't think that all online is going to be the norm for as soon as the pandemic, as soon as our vaccines come in, the first thing is getting students back on campus. That's, I think, a big goal for almost every educator. I'm pretty sure IIT is thinking that way too.
Yes.
And maybe there's an online component. So there is efficiency, by the way, in online, right? That you can take the class at any time. You can be half asleep and taking the class in bed. And so there are
Yes.
efficiencies that are going through online. And so we're going to have to find the best of both, like the hybrid models where you have some online, some in person. I think that's going to get more and more to be the norm. But I would say don't worry, like it's not going to be all online. It is just not the way that you can really learn. You have to be with your peers and learn with your peers. So I think hybrid is going to be the way that it's going to work out over the long term.
We really hope it does.
It will. It will. Don't worry.
Another question is that for final year graduating students which are stepping into the big world, what advice would you give them?
My biggest advice is what I was just telling you was my advice to myself in Forbes, which was, believe in yourself. Don't believe that someone, just because of their title or their position or their experience, knows more than you. Don't assume that. They don't. There's so much value that you're bringing with your fresh ideas, your fresh thoughts, your ways of seeing the world differently. Believe in that and believe that you have a voice that the world wants to hear because the world is waiting to hear that voice. So go out to the world with that confidence.
I feel like it's a simple advice, but it's very hard to follow, and I guess it's very easily overlooked, especially at a young age.
Yeah, don't don't have doubts about yourself. Like that, it is simple advice, but you have to remember it every day, which is, if you think of something and you see, oh my gosh, why are they doing it that way? It seems so silly and outdated. Don't be afraid of that voice that's telling you that. Go and ask questions. Like ask people, why are you doing it this way? Why couldn't we do it this way? Even if there's a real reason for that, at least you learn it. But don't be afraid of asking those questions, and don't be afraid of what your internal system is telling you, that what, this is not making sense. Maybe we can change this. Maybe this can be done a better way. Because like I said, those are how disruptions happen. And it's no surprise that disruptions happen from people like you, because you're coming in and questioning the status quo. So do that.
Yes. Another question is that how has studying from IIT influenced your entire life?
Studying from IIT.
Yes.
Okay. What, I did give that joke about my getting a D, and I did. So I didn't learn much from engineering drawing for sure, but I did learn a lot from my other classes. I did learn a lot from my algorithms classes. We used to do the advanced computer science class in terms of logical thinking. How do you take a really complex problem, but break it down into its steps? And each step is a simple step, but the steps, if you follow the simplicity of it, it leads to the answering the complexity of the question. And so that just simple, the breakdown and the just that logical thinking That has stayed with me for all my life. I never look at a problem and say, oh my gosh, it's too complex for me to solve, because I always break it down into its simple components. And those are in terms of problem solving, also in terms of just strategy, right? Like when I joined Google TV, it was not very obvious what we should do and how we should build it. But I just broke it down into its steps. Like the first step is, when I joined the product, it was a product that was not very well. The quality was pretty poor. The performance was really poor, and so that was the first step. Is the quality needs to be great. Like no one's going to watch TV if that TV is going to crash on you. It's not, it's not a computer that maybe a crash is okay. When you're watching TV, it needs to be perfect. And so that's the first step. Then the second step is, okay, people are finding it very hard to find content on our platform. And so how do we make that search and discovery experience really simple? So that was our second step. And then the third step is, well, how do we get more and more TVs in the world that are powered by Google TV? So that's our third step. And so you see, like even a strategy, I just like boiled it down into its simple steps, and then making sure that you're addressing each step was really just how we succeeded with this. And so I think that's a big learning lesson that I've got from IIT, is just taking a problem, simplifying it, and then following it through step by step. I think that's a big one for me. Um, all of the all of the education in just the computer science and technology, just groundwork. People can throw electrical engineering problems at me too, and I don't live and breathe it every day, for sure. I don't live and breathe what you probably do, but you can throw a problem at me and I get the fundamentals of it. And so that's that in this world, especially in companies like Google and even Facebook or Snapchat. They all seem like social companies, but they really have technology as their grounding. And so, to have that grounding, to no one can bullshit me, even today. Like none of my engineers can come and tell me some hocus pocus and I'll just believe it. Like, because I have that grounding, right? Like I understand how
Yes.
client server architectures work. I understand how Wi-Fi works. And so I can go deeper if I want to and dig in and really understand it, and then maybe make suggestions that maybe they haven't thought of. And so that remains with me for all my life. And so I think those are the two big ones, I think, that I would say that I really learned from IIT that have stayed with me till today.
That's quite
By the way, also, like,
understandable.
I'll say, like, because I'm going to say this because my son is the same age as some of you here on this call, looks like. He's interviewing right now for an internship, and he was showing me the problems that they were doing, and I said, okay, I can see. He said, Mom, I'm sure you can't solve these problems, but I could solve them. So that's the other learning, right? Is that my kids can't bullshit me either.
Yes, that's true. One thing you said is that you take the big problem and you break it into parts. But I have personally felt and I have observed that in a lot of cases, when we see the bigger problems, we don't have the inertia to start. We see a really complex problem and it sort of demotivates us to even begin understanding its complexity. So, did you ever face that, or what would you suggest we should do to slowly overcome that?
Yeah, and is there one that you want? Like, is there an example of a big problem that you're having inertia with?
Let's say, not really, but let's say, suppose somebody graduates and they are in a startup or something. So, how would you suggest they should go about it? It happens very often that when we see a big problem, it feels like this is beyond me, or you never start to
Yeah.
fully understand its complexity to begin with. So,
Yeah.
solving comes quite far.
Yeah, the other lesson that I learned at IIT and through all my life, not just from IIT, is having a really good group of mentors, and peers who you can lean on. Because a lot of our education centers around you're doing the problem by yourself, right? You get a test, you have a problem, and you have to solve it all by yourself. But
Yes.
real life is really about teams. It's about people, and you join a startup. you're not going to be doing a problem by yourself. You're actually solving it with a bunch of people. And so that's a little bit of a shift, I think, when you graduate from IIT or any educational institution where the education is a lot of personally driven education. And now we have more and more group projects. So there's a little bit of a shift in that. But in general, education is personal. But as you move into real life, you realize it's about teams. And so I would say one of the big life lessons that I've had is it takes a village. It really does. It takes a village to solve hard problems. Think of a startup solving a really hard problem, such as eradicating, illiteracy in rural villages. It's a hard problem that many startups have looked at, and they're not going to be doing it alone. Even the startup is not going to do it alone. It's a constellation of people, of well-wishers, of people who are providing you funding, people who are providing you connections in a lot of these spaces. And so that's one big thing to keep with you is who is your mentor network and how can you lean on them to help you through these problems, to help you break the inertia, help you break it down into a different way of thinking that you have done yourself. And so that's a big one that I take with me. I have a group of mentors that I consult with constantly, and I'm really, really thankful they have helped me come to where I am today. I personally am a mentor for many people, including folks from IIT. And so, like I offered in the beginning, I'm happy to be a mentor for many of you if you would like that. And so I would say that that's a big one to take away. And I think your IIT friends are going to be your mentors. Your seniors are your mentors, and so use them in appropriate ways to lean on. And alumni, the reason I think IIT does these alumni events is because you
Yes.
can lean on us as your mentors and your supporters and your sponsors as you get into life and as you look at different things and different problem sets and look to solve them.
Uh, Another follow-up question is that you mentioned about eradicating illiteracy from regional regions, right? So, what are your views on imparting education in regional languages in higher technical institutions like IITs?
To be honest, I haven't formulated a strong point of view on that. I am on the board of a charitable institution called Pratham. I'm sure many of you may have heard of Pratham. They're really doing it. It's actually headed by someone from IIT, I believe. But they're doing really groundbreaking work in educating at the younger ages, and then they do provide vocational training at the higher levels. But I think education, for me, education is really starting at the grassroots at a much younger stage. Especially in India, where in a lot of the rural villages, a lot of kids just don't even have the basic grounding in math,
Yes.
in literacy,
English.
in language, in English or their regional language. So because once you learn a language, you can then read and educate yourself. But if you don't know the language, how do you do that? And so Pratham has really been an amazing force from my perspective. And so, that's one way that I've been involved in education. And of course, through IIT, I'm constantly in touch with the IIT team in terms of how I could be doing more. But I haven't really thought about the regional aspect at the college levels. But I'm always open to ideas and thoughts. So if any of you want to reach out and maybe start a company in that space, I'd be happy to fund it.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope it does happen. We have a closing question for you. What do you think life is all about?
What do I think? That's a very deep question. And like
And
I
that is why we have saved it for the last one.
said,
Take your time.
I think life is. There are three pillars in my mind of what life is, and my husband and I talk about it often. My husband and I, we're such good friends, we still wake up every morning. My daughter will always come in the mornings and say, "Oh my God, you guys are still having your coffee and cacking." Cacking, I think, is still the term in IIT too. My husband and I will cack every morning for at least an hour about random topics in life and philosophy. And this is our mantra for how we've lived our lives. And I hope it's helpful for you, which is there are really three pillars of life if you think of it as a stool. And you need all three pillars to keep you grounded. The first pillar is you yourself. And so, how do you take care of yourself from a health perspective, from a perspective of constantly learning new things and keeping yourself excited and motivated? I'm always looking at new technologies, looking at taking new classes. Online makes it so easy, right? I don't have to sign up to be in IIT again. I can just take a class online, and so I'm constantly doing that, constantly keeping myself aware of what's happening in the world. So reading a lot. So that's the first pillar, is you yourself, and how are you making sure that you're always strong in spirit, in body, and in mind. That's number one. Number two is, and I'm happy to give advice on that, by the way, but I think you guys are too young to be thinking too deeply on that. The number two pillar is your career. And, we all need, we're all in IIT because we want strong careers. And that's an important pillar, is to make sure that, you're following your dreams, or you're following what interests you, and you're doing well there in whatever that well means. By the way, for some people, be doing well is doing financially very well. For some people, it's about rising the corporate ladder. For some people, it's about giving back and doing charitable work. But that is your career. And so doing well in that and giving it all you've got is important. And so that's, in my mind, the second pillar. And then the third pillar is your family, your friends, your community. How are you giving back to them? How are you making sure that you have a group of people that you can enjoy your life with, you can have a good time with, you can pull all-nighters with, you can relax and talk about all things in the world with, you can go and give back to your community towards. That in my mind is the third pillar. And so that's my three pillars of life in a nutshell, is you yourself, your career, and your friends, your family, and your community.
Thank you, ma'am. That's quite the opinion.
Yeah.
One follow-up question from my side is, you mentioned the first pillar is myself. So, uh, over the past months, there has been a lot of talk about mental health, and I think it's not something that's rising, but it's the kind of issue that we have never addressed, and it's just always been suppressed. So, over the years, as you worked on all these complex problems, did you get stressed about them? And since they were quite at the big level, so how did you manage your stress, and how did you look after yourself?
Uh, yeah, we all have stress. Regardless of the pandemic, there's always stress
Yes.
in life, and it's different phases of life. Like, and the stress is different. When you're in IIT, the stress is because of tests. You want to, of course, A, pass them, but B, you ideally want to get an A in them. You want to do your best. So that's the stress. Just graduating, getting great grades, learning. That's the stress. As you get into the workforce, the stress is, hey, does my boss like my work? Am I able to solve what he's asking me to do? That's a stress. When you have kids, the stress is, oh my gosh, am I going to raise great kids? Are they going to be good citizens of the world? Am I imparting my knowledge effectively to them? That's the stress. So there's stresses at every point in life. And, I think the pandemic did make it harder, because mainly because you're at home by yourself. And so, it took us all a while to get used to this very video culture of, conversing through video conferencing. I think we're getting better at it, but none of us want it to last forever, that's for sure.
Yes.
So it did add to the stress. It did add to a lot of mental tension. There are some reports of even for senior citizens, right? I think about my parents. They're living by themselves in India, and the fact that they're alone is really high stress and a lot of mental tension that happens. So it has definitely accelerated. I don't deny that. The ways that I handle it, I think again, like one of the pillars, like I mentioned, is your friends and family. And I've really, you have to invest in that. It doesn't just happen. And that's why I said it's one of the pillars, and to make sure you spend time on it. But that has really helped me, just being able to be with friends, whether it's on a video conference or whether it's going on a hike or a bike ride with them. That really helps me de-stress. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of meditation. So I do meditate every morning. That's why I'm up so early, right? Because
Yes.
I'm going to meditate right after this. But that really helps me with stress. Different people, like some people go running and they spend that time de-stressing. So there are many different avenues to de-stress. And I think it's important to take that time to do that, to really invest in de-stressing, however that de-stress happens. For some people, by the way, like my husband is a very social person, and for him, de-stressing means going out with a bunch of friends. Of course, the pandemic, like I said, has made it harder. But he'll go for a walk with a couple of friends, and just talking with them, all kinds of nonsense, like nothing really of any consequence. But but it helps the de-stressing, and so whatever works, you have to take that time to do that. That would be my advice on the de-stressing side.
Thank you. I will be sure to implement that.
Yeah.
Ma'am, it has been a lovely evening having you here. And we know you woke up early, so we are really grateful for that as well.
No, thank you so much for inviting me. I was really excited about this. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to put all the questions together. It was really very lively for me as well. And like I said again, I wish I had been there in person, that I could see all of you in person. But we make the best of what we have. And I did mean it. What I said in the beginning is, if any of you want to reach out, LinkedIn is a really easy way to reach out to me. Just connect on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to offer. If this has been valuable for you, I'm happy to talk in person, one on one, or over email. Emails work really the best, over email, and just help guide any of you if I could be helpful.
If you could just share your email ID, perhaps say it right now.
Yeah, or just find me on LinkedIn. That's actually an easier way to do it. Just find me on LinkedIn, and let me know in that LinkedIn invite that you're from IIT. So I'll accept it, and that's a great way to communicate.
I'm sure many people will follow that.
Yeah, it's
Thank you
Shalinis
so
Journey
much, ma'am.
at LinkedIn. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun, and good
For
luck
us
to all of you. I will say IIT was the best days of my life, and I really, really miss it. But I stay in touch with all my IIT friends, so we recreate it for ourselves. But for all of you who are in IIT, really, you're really, really lucky that you're there. So enjoy those 4 years. Really make the best of it. Learn a lot, make a lot of friends, enjoy every moment of it, because it goes by really, really fast.
it does. I will be sure to implement that. And ma'am, you have a lovely family. So best of luck with your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and to all of you too. Okay,
Bye.
bye.